All right, welcome back. We're talking 49er football. Larry Krueger, Ryan Smith. We're joined today by the Falcons beat writer from The Athletic the last couple of years. Josh Kendall is with us as we look ahead to the 49ers and the Atlanta Falcons. Week 6 in the NFL. It's amazing. We're already 6 weeks into the year. Really Josh, thanks for a few minutes, and thanks for joining Ryan and I. And, we're really looking forward to seeing the Falcons. How's the season gone so far for the Falcons?
Well, they're 2-3, which is not great. They've been a more competitive team than they were a year ago. They've been a more interesting team than they were a year ago. This is the second year of head coach Arthur Smith and general manager Terry Fontenot. But you can see some signs of progress. This was a team that a lot of people thought would be in a real strong contention for the number 1 overall pick. I think that they've proven that they're a step ahead of that. They think that they're several steps ahead of that. So we'll have to see whether they're right or not. But so far, so good, I think, from a realistic perspective.
Where would you say the strength of the team lies? I mean, I'm just looking at the depth chart. I really like Grady Jarrett, and I really like Taquan Graham, who I saw play at Texas. Graham's close to 300 pounds, moves exceptionally well. Jarrett moves really well. What would you say is the strength of the team at this point?
Well, Grady is having an exceptional year. He is a really good player, having a really good year. And Graham has been a bit of a surprise in his second year. He is also really good. The problem is they do not have any depth beyond that. That's pretty much what they've got on the defensive line. Dean Pease plays a 3-4 base defense, but this year they've played a ton of, what's essentially a 2-5-4. Or, with just two true defensive linemen, he walks those outside linebackers up on the edge, so it's kind of a 4-man front at times. They've been doing a ton of stuff. The strength of this team, though, is its offensive line's run blocking and run game. Arthur Smith is a really creative run design guy and play caller. They're one of the top teams, if not the top team, I haven't checked this week, in yards before contact per rush. I mean, so this offensive line, which is struggling still some in pass protection, can really run block. That, Arthur Smith's play designs, Cordero Patterson's when he's healthy. This is a pretty formidable run game. Excuse me.
Yeah, plus the addition of Mariota in the run game, right?
Absolutely. He is second. I was just looking this up. He's second in the league among quarterbacks in third down conversion with his legs, Josh Allen being number 1. And just the numbers game, just the way he changes the numbers in the run game and the way you have to account for that opens up other parts of that run game. So, yeah, he's been very valuable in that.
Let's talk about the two runners. Algier, I saw at BYU. He's a bigger back, and he's got some power. And Caleb Huntley runs with tremendous power. I think people are just kind of discovering Caleb Huntley. Obviously, Cordero Patterson is a big part of this offense, but he's not there this week. So talk to us a little bit about Algier and Huntley.
Algier and Huntley are kind of Arthur Smith type backs in that they are kind of physical, mean runners run with an attitude. Those are the guys he wants for 3-down backs. I tell you, the guy that you might want to, as a Niners fan, to keep an eye on is Avery Williams, who was a dynamic punt returner at Boise State. They drafted him late rounds 2 years ago, and he played cornerback for Atlanta last year. They moved him to running back this year, and you're starting to see him get comfortable back there. He's a more dynamic player than Algier or Huntley because he can do more things. He's more of a quick strike threat. We saw him, a decent part of the package of the plan against last week against the Buccaneers, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's an even bigger part of the plan this week.
It's an interesting offense. Go ahead.
I was going to say, how's the relationship in Atlanta, amongst the fans and whatnot, with Kyle Shanahan? Do you think he's going to get kind of a warm reception? Is there still?
No, I think that they're getting over some of that. I do, but 28-3 is going to live forever here, unless they win one at some point. 28-3 is just going to live forever.
It's funny. There's a good little rivalry, I would imagine, brewing here between Kyle Shanahan and Dean Pease. Dean Pease has been scheming up defenses for years and years. Did it with Baltimore for years. He's as respected as they come, and obviously Shanahan is a respected offensive mind. As far as the back end of that defense for the Falcons, so there's some good-looking young players there. AJ Terrell was a terrific player at Clemson. I loved Richie Grant in the draft. Bay Area football fans know Jalen Hawkins from his days at Cal. The veteran Casey Ward is there. To me, if you look at the talent, you think, man, there's some interesting young players. It's in that secondary.
Yeah, AJ Terrell is having a down year. As good as he was last year, teams have not hesitated to go at him this year. That's been really interesting and something we need to keep an eye on. But he is a good player. Casey Hayward has helped. Casey Hayward has helped on the other side in place of Fabian Monroe. Richie Grant is the guy who has really made strides this year. Number 42 pick 2 years ago. Struggled some as a rookie because they had to play him at nickel some out of necessity. Didn't do great there and was a rookie. Really settled in at safety this year and playing really well.
How about Drake London? I mean, obviously, West Coast people know Drake London from his time at SC. He's a big receiver, 6'4", close to 215, 220 pounds, and just tremendous ball skills. I know I've seen some highlights already. He seems like he's had a very quick adaptation to the NFL. What do you think? What's your impressions of London?
Really good. Looks like he belongs. Really smooth, very natural catcher of the football. There were some questions about his top end speed and whether he could separate at this level. He can. He has been everything that they wanted, and he looked better, as you would imagine, when Kyle Pitts was on the field weeks 1, 2, 3, 4. Kyle Pitts wasn't on the field last week. Drake got some more attention. We didn't see him as big a part of the plan, or at least as big a part of the results. So, I think we expect Kyle Pitts to play this week. We don't know for sure. We expect him to play. If he is, that helps Drake London a ton.
Two guys I got to get your thoughts on. I really enjoyed watching in the draft process. D'Angelo Malone played for the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. I think he wears 51. And then the Penn State kid, Arnold Ebiketie. Both these guys just come flying off the edge. You mentioned, kind of a 2-5 front. How's Pease utilizing those two guys? Both those guys can come flying off the edge.
Neither one of them is a full-time starter yet. Ebiketie's close. He's basically their passing downs outside linebacker. Adi Ogundeji is the running downs outside linebacker at that spot. D'Angelo Malone kind of goes back and forth between the inactive and the active lists on Sundays, but he's shown some flashes, which is what they expected. They expected his development arc to be a little bit longer than Ebiketie's. Ebiketie's been a contributor from Jump Street. He had his first career sack in the first game of the year and continues to, so his snap count keeps inching up.
Desmond Ridder and Mariota, that was deemed as a battle in camp. What did Ridder look like in the preseason? How close was Ridder to landing that gig?
I don't think very close. They like Ridder, but he is a rookie. Arthur Smith runs a big package that is fairly complex. Marcus Mariota's numbers are not great this year, but they have really lauded his ability to get them in and out of the right positions, to keep them out of negative plays, to get them in the right looks, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think that they like Desmond Ridder's long-term plan, and I think that Desmond Ridder probably has to play this year just to see what you've got prior to the 2023 draft. I don't think we're right up against that time, though. I think that's further down the road this season.
So our expectations down in Atlanta, are they playoffs right now? Because it seems like division's wide open. The NFC is not. I can't remember it being this weak, and the quarterback play being this down. And I just took a look at Atlanta's schedule, and it's pretty easy down the stretch. I think you have two teams down the stretch that actually have a winning record so far.
Yeah, it depends on whose expectations you're talking about. The fans still are not. They're still not there. They still don't. 10,000 times bitten, 10,001 times shy, or whatever the equivalent would be. So they're not thinking this team's a playoff team. Internally, I think they've got a shot. Absolutely. You've got, if you get to 9-8 in the NFC, you've got a shot. Can this team win 7 more games? Yes, it could. It's, let's see though. I'm not there yet. They've still got to prove it.
if we're walking through the streets of Atlanta, Josh, where do the Falcons sit compared to like Georgia football or, I'm I've just watched the Braves, go yesterday in the playoffs. Obviously, that's a central focus, and I think Travis Schlenk's a buddy of ours from here in the Bay Area. I love what he's doing with the Hawks. I know they had a disappointing year, but I think they're a team on the rise in the NBA. But in that market, and pro football is huge everywhere,
right?
But college football, to be in Atlanta, it's like I can remember how big the Vince Dooley show was, and I can remember how many Dogs fans I ran into when I was down there. Where do the Falcons sit in the pecking order among the sports fans there?
This is definitely a Georgia Bulldog town, first and foremost. Braves are a clear second, and those two teams exist on a plane kind of up here above everybody else. And then the Falcons and Hawks, based on their success, kind of jockey for third place. The Hawks probably have it right now because they are on a little bit of a run by their standards. The Falcons, because as you mentioned, this is the NFL, can make up ground quickly if they win, but they've got to win first.
My last question is about Matt Ryan. Obviously, I'm sure you covered him for a long time. Is there kind of a feeling now in the building like, okay, you know what, maybe some of the struggles were actually on Matt Ryan now that you see him in this Colts offense and he's kind of just, getting the crap beat out of him, not playing very well?
Yeah, you wonder about that. I thought that the typical Falcons life, Matt Ryan would go to Indianapolis, they'd be great. Falcons would suck and everybody would say, well, of course, that's just how life works. But he has not been good. Not all on him, just like it was not on him here, but he's part of it. And the Falcons, meanwhile, have gotten better offensively, which I didn't think they necessarily would, just going from a 14-year guy who's been an MVP in this league. So I'm surprised. I'm not happy about it, but there's no Schadenfreude, I don't think. I think people here mostly rooted for Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
But
just like an interesting data point.
Yeah.
Hey, last one for you. We appreciate your time, Josh. You mentioned the O-line, that it's kind of a run-first look, and they're trying to pound the run, and I think that's probably a good game plan this week, to be honest, against this 49er defensive front, though we don't know the status of Nick Bosa. But when you're looking at that line, like I know Drew Dahlman from doing the Stanford pregame show for years. His daddy played for the Niners, and he's a tough kid and a smart kid at center. Caleb McGarry, I remember from the University of Washington. Lindstrom was a high pick. I mean, who is the strength of that Falcon offensive line? If you said, if you ranked their top two linemen of that group of five, who are the guys who really are the stalwarts on that O-line?
It's Chris Lindstrom. Chris Lindstrom at right guard is their best offensive lineman, and it's he's a step ahead of everybody else. Jake Matthews, who struggled some against the Bucs and a complicated defense against the Bucs at left tackle, he's number two, and then everybody else is jockeying just to sort of keep making steady progress.
Good stuff, Josh. If people want to check you out, where can they follow you on social media, and what are you writing going into this game?
Well, we're writing about Marcus Mariota this week, so yeah, keep an eye on that. I'm at Josh the Athletic on Twitter. Holler if you got any questions. I appreciate y'all having me.
Thanks for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
All right.
There we go, Josh Kendall from the Athletic, and very cool to catch up with Josh and get a little thumbnail sketch on the Atlanta Falcons. And it's an interesting matchup, right? Because the 49ers are on the road. They've played like 4 years in a row where they've gone this kind of 2-game Eastern swing where they stay at the Greenbrier in West Virginia. And the Greenbrier people, according to all the 49er personnel, say they treat the team exceptionally well. The team gets a chance to bond on the road. In a way, it's almost kind of like a second training camp, even though the workload's different.
Yeah.
Because you're getting to bond and you're sitting around, I'm sure, playing cards and watching Tube and, hanging out with your boys. And that, I think, is probably a good thing. And if you look at the results, and, it's NFL's very much a results-oriented business. 49ers have played 8 games sandwiched in these Eastern, over the last 4 years, sandwiched in this Eastern stayover, if you will. And they've gone 7-1. So it's obviously something that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch believe in. It minimizes your east-west travel, and maybe helps the guys bond a little bit. But the Niners have been exceptional on these 2-game stretches, and they've really been exceptional in the second game of the stretch. So maybe that's an indication that this is, if you can take out some of the air travel, throw in a few few more hours hanging out as a group, that maybe it's a good thing for your football team.
Yeah, I think you're right. The only thing is just the piling injuries. But what was interesting is when I when I asked him about Shanahan, you hear a lot about Washington and that Kyle's beef with Washington because of his dad, but you don't hear much about the Falcons relationship. I actually sort of assumed that they, even though the 28-3 thing happened, that they kind of would give him a warm reception, but doesn't sound like it. So that kind of, Kyle strikes me as a little bit of a grudge guy, a little bit of a spiteful guy. So that kind of makes me think maybe the Niners do win big.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I'm sure the masses are like, oh man, 28-3, and Kyle Shanahan had a big hand in that, and let's boo him and hold his feet to the fire. But let's be honest about it. The Falcons' offense was a historic offense. I believe Shanahan's final year there, they set the record for yards gained on first down. I think they were gaining over 8 yards on every first down play. So they were consistently looking at 2nd and 1, 2nd and 2, which is a hugely advantageous position to be in for a play caller, because you got defenses over a barrel. Do they play the run, looking for you to pick up the first down? Do they play the pass, knowing that 2nd and 1, you got a chance to really take a shot down the field and throw it over their head? And if you look at their choices, I mean, they went to Steve Sarkisian. I mean, they have not found the offensive success that Kyle enjoyed since Kyle left. So if you're an intelligent Falcons fan, I don't know that I'd be booing this guy. I think in some ways you would have newfound respect because this offense has struggled in his absence.
It's interesting. I almost would, if you now knowing what we know with more data points, I do like Arthur Smith as a coach, but it's almost like it would have been a hell of a move to just appoint Kyle Shanahan the head coach and then make Dan Quinn the DC. Because look what he's doing with these Cowboys.
Right. Dan Quinn might be ideally suited to be the defensive coordinator. Heck, there are people that would argue that Kyle Shanahan should not be a head coach and he should be an offensive coordinator. But I think Shanahan's had a lot more success as a head coach than Quinn has had. But you're right. If they had made Shanahan the head coach, made Quinn the defensive coordinator, they may have had a ring by now.
Oh yeah.
It's really not to mention, look what happened to Matt Ryan's career from that point on.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, seriously. And yeah, this Falcons team it's just not bad. I mean, I'm looking at their like PFF, like you were asking about the offensive line, like Lindstrom is the number 1 rated guard. That obviously they've got Pitts. I still don't really know.
They got 3 number 1 picks on their 5 linemen. Jake Matthews, Chris Lindstrom, and Caleb McGarry were all first-round picks.
Yeah, and they're running the hell out of the ball. I was actually reading one of his articles before this interview, and they're second in estimated, EPA estimated points added, rushing. So, I mean, even without Patterson, they're getting it done. And you got to give Arthur Smith a lot of credit for kind of figuring this Patterson thing out. Cause I think that, everyone just look at fantasy. Everyone thought that was an aberration sort of last year. He's doing it again. How many teams have had Patterson and have tried to do something similar? The Patriots, everybody that's had him has tried to figure out how to use the guy. And it seems like he's really turned him into a weapon, like a bigger Debo almost.
Yeah. No, I mean, going back to Tennessee when he played for the Vols, I mean, he was an incredible wide receiver, but, then you jump to the NFL and you don't quite have the speed as a wide receiver, but you're awfully physical. And it's like, yeah, they found a spot for him to be kind of a combo. And, so much about the NFL is not who you play, it's when you play them. And if you had gotten this Falcon team a few weeks back, when they had Drake London, Tyler Algier, Caleb Huntley, Marcus Mariota, and Kyle Pitts and Cordero Patterson. Now you're looking at a different deal. But
Yeah.
you take Pitts out of the equation, you take Cordero Patterson out of the equation. Now you're looking at Drake London trying to shoulder the load as a rookie wide receiver, which is always difficult. You got a rookie running back in Tyler Algier. I will say this: it's just they're not the team that they were week one. But I will say this: this is the week that you better bring your big boy pants to tackle these guys, because Algier's 225, Huntley's 225. They both run exceptionally hard, and they're bullish, and they're the kind of guys that run hard and keep the legs churning. And you gotta go low on these guys. You gotta bring them to the ground. You gotta gang tackle them. To me, that's going to be where this game is won or lost. Or do the Falcons have a shot to win? On paper, I don't give them much of a shot unless they can have a lot of success running it with Algier and Huntley at the teeth of the 49er defense that still could be without Javon Kinlaw and has a diminished Eric Armstead, may not have Nick Bosa. Bosa quietly is a dominant player against the run. We don't talk about it a lot because he's such a great pass rusher, but Bosa is so good against the run. So if by chance Nick can't go, if Kinlaw can't go, if they have to go without those two guys and maybe even without Armstead, or Armstead at a diminished capability, stopping the run could be a challenge, despite the fact you got the Greenlaws and the Warners who are just playing exceptional football, and Talanoa Hufanga, lurking right there off, in the cover three at the line of scrimmage, looking to attack the mesh point. But to me, that's a big part of this game. Turnovers, and can they stop Caleb Huntley? Can they stop Tyler Algier? And then also there's an opportunistic safety or opportunistic secondary back there. AJ Terrell, Richie Grant, Jalen Hawkins, Casey Hayward. These guys can all play. Even some of their backups. Darren Hall was really good at San Diego State. Alford's been in the league. So, you got some guys. I just think that actually this is a different Alford. I was thinking of Robert Alford. This is D. Alford, who's a first-year guy, I believe, or maybe a straight free agent. But yeah, they've got some. AJ Terrell was a first-round pick. Richie Grant was a second-round pick. So they've got some high picks in their secondary. They've got some high picks on their O-line. There's some genius to the play calling of Arthur Smith. Dean Pease is a veteran defensive coordinator, and he's got some interesting edge pieces there, and Ebiketie and D'Angelo Malone. And I mentioned Taquan Graham. Taquan Graham, looked like a defensive end at Texas. He's about 295 now, and he still moves like a defensive end, but he's playing kind of a 3-4. He's playing a 5 technique now. He's a big defensive end in their 3-4. And to me, if the Niner O-line is going to be challenged, it's going to be challenged by Taquan Graham and Grady Jarrett up front. So it should be an interesting game. Should be a game the 49ers win, but it's the NFL and anything can happen.
Yeah, and looking forward betting-wise on this Falcons team, now that I'm just thinking about it, so I think that both you and I were kind of down on the Bucs going into this year, but sort of gave them the nod to win the division by default. And I think that everybody at the beginning of the year was looking at maybe the Panthers could be a surprise team. Maybe the Saints have this great defense. Maybe they could win this division. If you look at that division, the Bucs are 3-2. They're one bad call away from the Falcons being in first place in the division. They're the only team that hasn't lost against the spread. They lost week 1 by 1 to New Orleans with a healthy Jameis. They lost week 2 at the Rams by 4. They went to Seattle, beat Seattle by 4. They beat Cleveland at home, and I think Cleveland's a good team. And then this last week, they could have easily beat the Bucs, but they lost by 6. They're in all of these games, and if you take out this next 49er game, this is how their schedule goes. At Bengals, they could win that. Home Panthers, absolutely could win that. Home Chargers, absolutely could win that. At Panthers, absolutely could win that. Home Bears, absolutely could win that. At Commies, absolutely could win that. Home Steelers absolutely could win that. Bye. Then at the Saints, absolutely could win that. At Ravens, I think the Ravens win that, but still could be close. Then home Cardinals could totally win that. And then home Bucks. So they have a shot to I feel like they're a sneaky team, maybe to put a little future down on them to win the division. I mean, if things break right, it's not, crazy.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing about them is look at the games that they've played this year. They lost to New Orleans in week 1, but they scored 26 points.
Yeah.
They lost to the Rams in week 2, but they scored 27 points. They beat Seattle in week 3, also scored 27 that day. They scored 23 against Cleveland. So now, granted, Cordero Patterson was a huge factor especially in that game in Seattle. He ran for 141 yards in that game. But this is a team that's going to score in the mid-20s. I mean, this last week against Tampa Bay, they were held to 15 points by Tampa's defense. But this is an offense that's going to score points. So the 49ers are, turnovers are going to be essential. And the 49ers are going to have to, have success in the red zone offensively. And they can't settle for field goals because this is a team that can run you over. Because if you look just at the 5 games they've played so far, they're likely to score 21, 24 points in that range. And if that means you're may have to score 30 to beat them.
Yeah.
So this is a Falcon team that I think if you take them lightly and you turn it over and you play sloppy, they can beat you, especially in their place. And the other thing that I think is interesting in this matchup is that the 49ers have assembled a tremendously fast football team. Their linebackers are fast. Their D-line's fast. Heck, there's times when in obvious passing downs, Chris Kocherik went with the all-4 defensive end alignment up front. He just took his tackles off the field. He just used 4 defensive ends with Amenahue and Drake Jackson lined up, standing up as tackles. So the Niners have a fast D-line, fast linebackers. They have Danny Gray at wide receiver. They've got some speed. And now you're putting them on a fast surface. A fast team on a fast surface, and things can get explosive. So to me, I love the 49ers to win this game because I think if you put the Niners, the faster the surface, the better it favors the teams that have the speed. And the 49ers have tremendous speed, team speed across the board. And so on a surface like the Falcons have, I like the 49ers. I like the 49ers to make big plays in this game. I think there's going to be some big collisions and some impact speed-based plays. So I like the 49ers. If they had a healthy Pitts and a healthy Cordero Patterson, I think this game's a little bit more of a coin flip. But the 49ers, I think, have found their way. The other thing the guy that I'm eager to see for the Niners on their front is Tevin Coleman, who, once upon a time, Tevin Coleman was part of a pretty good little backfield for the Falcons in Atlanta there. And I don't know about you, Rye, but Tevin Coleman was the eye-opener last week. I mean,
for sure.
When we talked to him, I mean, just the guy's incredibly tough. He's focused. He's determined. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got respect throughout the room. Then the game started, and he looked like he hadn't missed a beat. You would think that he had been on the team continuously for the last couple of years. It was, he's very much in tune with this offense as a runner, as a receiver. That catch he made down the sideline
unreal.
The first half was a 50-50 ball, and he just outjumped the defender. But there's a toughness about Tevin Coleman that I think Kyle really likes. And so now you get the combination. You don't have to lean on J.P. Mason. You can lean on Jeff Wilson Jr. and Tevin Coleman and, try to run downhill against the Falcons. So I definitely I'm eager to see what Coleman looks like in this game.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting him to have that same burst, but he looked like old, Tevin Coleman of old. He looks like he completely gave them an outside zone element that they really haven't had when they've been just rolling with Jeff Wilson. And yeah, would not surprise me at all if he kind of continued to be, involved in a big way, especially, the way he, understands pass pro and all that.
Bomber T says, best Bay Area sports content on YouTube. Thank you, Bomber T. We appreciate that. All right, let's do this. Let's play our spots, and then we'll wrap up this live stream. We're going to do more Niners Falcons based live streams over the next day or two. Hope you enjoyed a little bit from Josh Kendall from The Athletic, giving us a little preview of 49ers Falcons. But now a word from our sponsors on the Krueger Show.
Larry Krueger here for Telmetrics. Thanks to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics. If you're an occupational therapist, if you're an orthopedic surgeon, a chiropractor, a physical therapist of any kind, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics uses computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in the clinical and the telehealth environments. So using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injury needs, or if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist of any kind, call and make sure you use telmetrics.co, Telmetrix.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor of the Krueger. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dan Coach Emilio. Dan is a buddy, and he is a phenomenal retirement planning specialist. And you can contact him today at securemoney.com or at his number 925-628-9966. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, and you want to make sure that your money is secure. That is the key. Danny's got 25 years of experience, born and raised right here in the Bay Area, and he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. So give him a call, 925-628-9966. He'll make an appointment with you, and you can sit down. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a deal. He'll consult with you and come up with a strategy to get you going to where you want to be. Once again, 925-628-9966, securemoney.com on the web. And thanks to Dan Coach Emilio and all the people at Secure Money for being proud sponsors of the And thanks to Tony Casera and the good people at Casera's Italian Menswear. They are housing the Krug Show t-shirts, and they're a proud sponsor of the show as well. The Krug Show t-shirt, the Krug Show podcast t-shirt is available there at their store in Dublin. Their address is 7372 San Ramon Road in Dublin, California. And go see Tony Casera and get yourself a Krug Show t-shirt and support the show. And special thanks to our sponsor, New York Style Italian Sausage. That's right, NewYorkStyleSausage.com is their website. Phenomenal product, whether it's the breakfast sausage, the Italian mild, the Italian spicy, the chorizo. You cannot go wrong with New York Style Italian Sausage. Once again, NewYorkStyleSausage.com, often imitated, never equaled.
So New York Style Sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never going to deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
Hey, do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York Style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
The Krug Show. All right, final thoughts before we wrap up this live stream. We visited with Josh Kendall, who covers the Atlanta Falcons for The Athletic. Somebody said, in true Southern style, he did it from his porch.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, what did you think overall of his breakdown on the Falcons? And they're kind of an interesting football team because they're I would say most people do not consider the Falcons when they're thinking about NFC playoff teams. But as you very astutely pointed out, Rye, by the time the season comes to an end, they may be in the NFL playoff picture.
Absolutely. I mean, I absolutely see it seems like they're kind of like the perfect team to make it this year. You know, they have a toughness about them that I feel like they didn't have last year, and just the fact that they won't go away from running the ball. And you know, I think that Brady and the Bucks, if they've beat them a million times in a row, and I thought just, you know, the fact that they hung in that game and didn't give up, I thought really showed a lot. I think the real question before we go out is, do the Falcons remain the only team in the NFL to be unbeaten against the spread? I believe it was 6.5. It's now moved down to 5.5. Do you have a final score prediction?
I'm going to say this is going to be close. I'm going to say 49ers win this one. I'm going to say 31. Well, that might be a little high. I'll say
before you give your prediction, what's the status on gold? Do you know? And do you know if they're, because that's one thing that kind of worries me. It's like,
on who?
On Robbie Gold.
They worked out a kicker yesterday.
Okay.
And they added a kicker to their Sloman, I believe.
Okay.
Added to the practice squad.
To the podcast.
Added to the podcast. Yeah. They added him to the podcast. But yeah, no, I think they added a kicker yesterday to the practice squad. So I think that kind of tells me that they don't know if Robbie's going to be healthy or not. But that happened yesterday. They did add Sam Sloman. Sam Sloman was added to the practice squad, and they released Marlon Mack. What was your thoughts on that? That also could be a statement as much about Tevin Coleman as it is about Marlon Mack.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that Tevin Coleman kind of came in and, you know, they're both in the same lane sort of. And Coleman, obviously, I mean, Coleman came back and they immediately put him up. You know, he immediately was part of the game plan. Mac's been here a couple weeks, hasn't really seen time outside of special teams. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think they'll probably keep him on the practice squad.
I'm going to say the 49ers win this game 27-6. 27-6. And
I like it.
The reason I'm saying that is that I think this is a head knocker. The Falcons had Kyle Pitts is the one weapon they have that can run by you. The rest of these guys are going to try to run through you. Algier's going to run through you. Caleb Huntley's going to run through you. I guess Avery Williams could run by you. But for the most part, they've got these physical guys. And then you look at London. London doesn't give you a ton of separation, but what he does is if you get in the red zone, he's going to be able to post you up, and the ball's going to be delivered high, and he's going to make plays on the ball above your defensive back. So you have to really blanket London in the red zone. Olamide Zaccheaus is actually an underrated receiver as well, but they don't have that burner. Without Pitts. This offense lacks speed. This is a tough offense that's going to try to, make it a mano kind of a game. I think this is going to be one of those ice bag games, hard hitting games. But I don't think the Falcons, because the Falcons don't have that speed element, the 49ers are going to be able to do whatever they want defensively at the line of scrimmage without fear of the ball going over their head. And I just think that the real key in this game is going to be not allowing. First of all, it's to be wrapping up on Huntley and Algier. Number one. Number two, you really have to key on London in the red zone because Mariota's going to London. And the other one is you got to have a coordinated rush because Marcus Mariota, despite the fact that Mariota goes 6'4" and about 225 pounds, he moves exceptionally well. And if you get out of your run lanes, he's going to bust you, for a big run, and you're going to have your defense staying on the field for a longer amount of time. So a coordinated rush against Mariota, draped all over the great Drake London in the red zone, and wrap tackle against Algier and Huntley, and win the turnover battle. You do those things, I think, they could even be a more one-sided game. But I'll say 24-6, 27-6, something like that. I think 49ers defense is going to come, defense, pack your defense on the road. I think they will, and I think they'll win easily.
Okay. I'm going to go, I think it's going to have a similar vibe almost to the Panthers game and some of these games where, it's like, oh my God, if not for the pick six, it's kind of like, it feels like the Niners are completely dominating the game, but yet, oh my God, why is it only a 1-score game? I think that might be, I'm going to give the prediction 21-17. I think the Niners feel like they're in control, but I think they have a missed field goal. I think that Jimmy has, after playing 2 very great Jimmy G type games and not turning the ball over, I think he has one doy play where he coughs it up this week. And I think they win one that feels like they're in control, but gets a little scary at the end. 21-17 Niners.
There you go. All right, that does it for this live stream. We're going to do more probably later today as we run into more Falcons-Niners preview. And we may even have the great Vish Kumar, and I'm going to try to get a hold of Vish. We were supposed to get together tomorrow, but now I'm going to be sitting in tomorrow with Damon Bruce on 95.7 The Game for Ray Ratto tomorrow from 3 to 6. So maybe I can move that little live stream I had planned with Vish for tomorrow to today. So we've got all that later on today. Rye, we will see you soon.
Sounds great.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah, we ain't never fall back.